welcome everyone to Downtime. Thank you so much for joining us. Isandring, how are you?
Shiny day here. At home for a little while.
I know you're not on the road. Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, well.
She's mad at me though. She's like, "You're finally home, and you have to go do your internet friends, and they're more important than me." And it's like, well,
I thought she'd like.
Agreed to do this before I knew I was going to be home, so I'm a little obligated.
I thought she liked the show. She was like, she was always, yeah. They're saying you're a little quiet,
she likes the show, but I mean, she likes the show when I'm doing it when I'm not at home because she doesn't see me anyway. When I'm at home.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
I see. It's a second best for she gets to okay, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, I did have to go out to my home studio to do this though. So we're once again back in the truck. Otherwise, the dogs start barking at random things, and it makes a clutter. And the wife wants to listen to music or watch her videos, and you don't need all that going on in the background.
I remember. I mean, I think people don't think too much about. Obviously, why would you? Like the impact a YouTube channel can have on somebody's life. But I remember when we were first making In Time, and we were trying to figure out exactly what it was going to be. And it was supposed to just be an interview show. That's it. We were just going to do interviews. And I sat there and I said, okay, that's cool, but there's only so far you can get with interviews, and there's so much more to be had, and I didn't want to just be a guy who does interviews on YouTube. So I like the interviews, but I want it to be something more. So we're going to do this educational thing. We're going to do news, and then I forget how we came to the idea of are we going to do breaking news, but we decided we were going to do breaking news. And first of all, the first time we got breaking news, we were setting up the interface, and we had this big red bar that would flash if we had breaking news, and would flash on the interface. And we kind of cheated on that one a little bit, because we're like, how the fuck do we do something like that? We got no idea how we do something like that. And then I realized, okay, CNN had a flashing bar when there was breaking news. So I just built into the interface, like a screen capture would just capture whatever was on CNN whenever, as soon as we turned on the show, as soon as we turned on the software, it would constantly just refresh on CNN and, put up the blinking thing from CNN, and would just delete the background and the whole 9 yards. So that's what we did. And we're testing it for the first time. We still haven't really decided if we want to do. I had to talk to my whole family, though. I was just like, okay, if we commit to this, it's going to be one of those things. Even when we're on vacation, I'm going to have to be able to stream. If somebody takes a pot shot at the president of the United States, we're going to have to. And that was January 6th, right? January 6th, my whole family was out. It's like, sorry. So, and I was very proud of our coverage of January 6th. That was fucking intense. And that was huge numbers because nobody else was carrying it live. So, anyways, I remember we're testing the interface, and it keeps blinking. And I was just like, oh, fuck, it's only supposed to do that when there's breaking news. So I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with the system. Is it not getting it dynamically off the website? What the hell is it, And I go look at the website. It's not blinking on the website, but it's blinking on the interface. And I'm sitting there going, I hate it when shit like this just doesn't work. I keep trying to figure it out. I say, wait a minute. I know it looks like it's not blinking on the website, but I haven't refreshed the website. What happens if I refresh CNN? I refresh CNN. 6 officers held hostage in Baltimore. 1 person shot and killed. The whole area is being evacuated. I was like, whoa! I was like, do we do this now? Are we ready? And that was it. And then a legend was born. That was our first show. We weren't ready for it, but we're like, well, I guess we're doing this.
And the rest of In Time went down in infamy.
Yeah. That was also the one. Hold on. So, if you're a patron of the show, and we have a number of patrons, and we used to, and I'd like to start doing this again. Yeah, we do. I'd like to start doing this again. Listen, something about, it's Nick's voice, when he talks in that low voice. People are like, I really just want to become a patron of the show. But we used to do these.
I'm sorry I'm hurting your numbers then. Sorry, go ahead.
We used to do these postcards, and I'd like to start doing them again. We're all set up to do them again. I just haven't had the time. But we'd send out postcards once a month to every patron. And I think it's a nice thing to do. And this one was from that show. And what you see here is a woman. And this, to me, actually epitomized in time and what we talk about and why this show is relevant. So this was 6 officers were being held hostage in Baltimore. And this lady was selling concessions to the shootout. So they were trying to get her to move back. And they were trying to get her, and she wasn't moving past the initial line that they had made, and they tried to create a new line further back because things were just so dangerous, and people kept shooting. So she was actually within where she could get shot, and she just strapped a bag to her head, or strapped a basket to her head, filled it with what have we got in there? We got like, oh dear Lord, I took off my glasses and I can't. Filled it with like Kit Kats, M&Ms. Oh yeah, there you go, M&Ms, Kit Kats, Slim Jims. The whole 9 yards, and she had a little fanny pack, and she was selling concessions to the shootout. And I'm just like, okay, that's why we do the show. that's why, so we can sit and talk about American consumerism in the middle of a gun shootout in a neighborhood in Baltimore. Yeah, it was.
Gawker's got to eat too, you know.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, I mean, that was yeah.
Pretty innovative woman.
That is.
I'm doing that.
What I really like is she's just so happy. She's like giving her thing up to the here. Let me just for 1 minute here. Let's put this up so that hopefully you guys can see it. There she is. There's a little reflection there. There you go. And she's just got that strapped to her head. She's got a little fanny pack, and she's just selling concessions to this shootout. And it's like very little, in my mind, speaks more to American culture, both voyeurism, gun violence, and commercialism than that very first show that we did. And yeah, so there you go. I don't know. Yeah, I may find that more interesting than most people. And we got to get back to we haven't done them in a little while. And we try to. The other thing is, I want to try to do things that are salient. And it's anyone can just send a postcard that has anything but something salient that we can say. And so before we continue to the other thing is, of course, we finished up, and I put this on the Discord. And if you want to keep up with what's going on the show, Discord's a great place to do it. We sent out the Ukrainian flag to the winner of the who gave the highest the highest super chat during our Ukraine fundraiser. I've talked with everybody involved, Anna, Starsky, obviously Godless Mom, and let them know. I think we had $800 and some odd dollars after YouTube takes their cut, which is a pretty significant cut. So all that's going to be heading out soon. But we got the flag out the door, and I think that one just went great. And I had a blast with that. It was a lot of fun. So yeah,
it was fun. I thought it did really good time. Terrible thing to have to do a fundraiser for, but I was happy to see the turnout and the donations that we got. And we should probably be a little bit more clear. You sent the flag to the highest paying person that you had information for.
Well, we got information for the other one. So yeah, to be crystal clear, and we put this on the Discord, the one who was the highest, basically, I shouldn't say forfeited, I guess, but said that he was not interested in either the note from Starsky or anything else, and chose to remain anonymous. So we went with the second highest, and that's what we did. So yeah. So to be clear, that is a important detail. But again, all the details on our Discord for anybody who's interested. Let's see, what was the other? I completely spaced it. Let's see, we're talking. Oh yeah, Anna from Ukraine hit me up and was just like, "Thank you for all that you do for Ukraine," and I know why she says that. She says that because she has to say that to anybody who does anything for Ukraine, because they're fighting for survival. They need every friend they've got, and part of it's PR. And she means it, by the way. I'm not suggesting that she's, I'm not suggesting that in a cynical way. But, I get that, and I'm sitting there going, like, I held a fundraiser and held some interviews, which I personally found fascinating and enjoyed, and did all these other things, and I'm just like, I'm not getting shot at, I'm not shooting back at people, I'm not, I don't know, there's something about it when it always, I don't know if this happens to you, it always makes me actually kind of sad when somebody thanks me, because I've done very close to nothing. Done very close to nothing. And that includes every interview with Starsky. In Time has made a few donations in addition to the donations that come in from other people, when it's convenient. I get to say that as I'm coming out of Starbucks, right? I mean, so I don't, when I get thanked, I guess I'm appreciative. I try to be appreciative, but it also, I feel bad, if it makes any sense. I just really feel bad. And that
well,
was
maybe I can alleviate a little bit of that kind of. I get it's akin to survivor's guilt. When you are in the shit and things are going wrong and it's dark, it's pretty bleak. We're talking a difficult time, and somebody who doesn't have to puts in a modicum of effort to try and make your life any better, whether that's helping you directly, giving you good vibes, saying, hey, how are you doing? I care. Great. Holding a fundraiser, yeah, $800, a lot to some people, not very much in a war zone. Doesn't get you very far when everything is needed. But the profound impact that can have on somebody's, especially mental health, that there's somebody out there who cares. I don't think you can understate that in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, you may be walking out of your Starbucks with your double frappuccino latte, do whatever the hell you buy at Starbucks, but you spent a modicum of your time, effort, and energy helping somebody who didn't need or couldn't expect your help, and it means quite a lot to when that happens. So I wouldn't feel guilty about saying, "Oh, I did so little," when what you did was profoundly important to the people that it affected.
I hope that's true. I suspect you hit the nail on the head, so I don't mean to be dismissive of it, but it gets a little overwhelming, as does the sense that nothing will ever really be sufficient. I don't know. Probably best to not think about these things, to be honest, because you can get stuck in your own head. I'm self-reflective, probably to a fault, and to a point where I get wrapped up in my own head. When somebody thanks me, I see more the things I haven't done than the things I have. But my suspicion is if I gave away my children's trust funds, trust funds, they're college funds, you know what I'm saying? Gave away their college funds, gave away my house, went to Ukraine and went on the battlefield and found myself facing a Russian army, struck with a mortal wound, dying. I would sit there and say I still didn't give enough. I think that's just maybe part of the human condition. And I've met doctors who feel the same way too. And I've met doctors who couldn't. My grandfather had that issue. My grandfather was a doctor in World War II, actually. And I've talked about this. I think you've heard this one when we were talking about triage. Triage is something most people don't understand and is a brutal but important thing. And if you can't do triage as a doctor, you can't really work as a doctor in an ER or as a surgeon in any difficult theater. So he was in Patton's army, and during the Battle of the Bulge, Patton arrived. Nobody thought he'd make it in time. Managed to get there, and the city of Bastogne was completely encircled. There was no way in. They were very low on ammunition, had no medical supplies, nothing, and they had no doctors. So they said, we're looking for volunteers. And my grandfather got the Silver Star for this. They were looking for volunteers. He volunteered. They put him in not a hang glider. They basically jury-rigged a glider, hooked it up to the back of a Jeep, got the Jeep going as fast as they could, and he flew over the trees and crash landed in Bastogne. Had to wait until night before the bullet fire died down enough he could make it to a garage and then perform surgery for 48 hours straight out of a garage, and then take the dead bodies of soldiers and line them up against the garage doors to try to keep the shrapnel out as the bombs went off. And that was his World War II story. And with all that aside, he could never shake the feeling that he was a failure and that there wasn't more that he could have done. I don't know. I can't believe that that's part of the entire human experience, because there are plenty of people who seem to not suffer that. But a lot of the people, that's why, and I do want to hear what you have to say, that's why the interview with Brandon Mitchell hit me so hard. I understand exactly where he's coming from. I don't think I've understood a guest better than him when he was talking about the life that he felt he had squandered up until the moment that he went over there. And that was spooky. how much I felt, at least, like I connected with him. So anyways, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, it's the same thing that causes survivor's guilt. I mean, it's the exact same psychological process. Survivor's guilt. Why was I the one that survived? I'm not anybody special. Why did I make it out alive and all these good people died? It's like, why? It's the same psychological phenomenon. It brings you. It's like people are really suffering. I'm not. And it's like they're suddenly so grateful for me, and I've done such a modicum of effort. It's like, well, why are you so grateful to me? And a lot of it's because there's a hell of a lot of noise out there that doesn't care. So when you find people that do, I mean, even if it's like they're not doing profoundly game-changing things, every little bit that they do does help.
So somebody was asking about my grandfather. I honestly forget the details of what he was in. You can look him up. He is on Wikipedia. Lamar Soutter is the name, and I don't remember how many details are on the Wikipedia page, but I know a lot of the military stuff is on there. He went on after that to found UMass Medical, and that's a whole other thing, and he's probably more on the Wikipedia page for that, which was the other thing. Maybe that's why I was thinking about it. Well, no, any number of reasons. My father died a couple of years ago, and UMass Medical was great about it and did a whole thing for him. Anyways, I'm sorry, what were you saying? I think I just completely ran over you. I think we need to rename this show. I think it's going to be called Couch Time, given the last two. It's just sitting around talking about.
So, and how does this make you feel, Nick?
Yeah, I am not paying you for this. There's no way. Well, I'll tell you what. I will double your salary. I will double your salary on In Time for this. You are now In Time co-host and therapist. You're the official In Time therapist. Apologies to everybody else who works on In Time.
We're a little screwed.
Yeah.
I don't do all touchy-feely all that well, so.
Yeah, well, that's okay nowadays. That's pretty illegal anyway. It used to be that's doctors were okay. That was a really bad joke. That was just genuinely. That wasn't even like that was just inappropriate. Oh dear Lord.
That's what you get when you try to ad-lib jokes off of the bat, and you're not somebody like Robin Williams.
Yeah. Well, Robin was. Yeah. Oh God. Speaking of things that are triggering, right? And speaking of people who felt like nothing they did was because he had that too. He had talked about, and I think he had spoken to his wife about this in one of the interviews after he had died, that when they were filming Schindler's List, George, I said almost a George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, really by the second or third day realized there was no way he was going to make it into a week of shooting. It was just so traumatic and so difficult, everything that they were shooting. So he called up the only person that he knew that might be able to help get him out of this, and it was Robin Williams. And every night for between 15 minutes to an hour and a half, he would talk to Robin Williams, who would do nothing but riff for that whole time. And Steven Spielberg said there was no way he could have made it through the movie without that. And Robin Williams, who was almost like freebasing pure joy, the guy. But later his wife had said, and that was one of the things that Robin gave to everybody but somehow was something that he was never able to find for himself. And it was more complicated than that, what happened with him. It was far more complicated than that, because he found his faculties starting to fade, and I think there's nothing more terrifying than that if you're someone like him. But anyways, it was there was another person who was able to give joy, but had demons that I think people did not see for obvious reasons.
I saw. I think one of the reasons why Robin Williams popped into my head, because there's any number of people that I could have thrown up there that are really good at improvising comedy right on the spot. I had watched an interview with one of the, I guess you'd technically at the time was a preteen actor. I wish I could remember what movie they were talking about. I want to say it was Patch Adams, but it might have been Jake. I think it was the movie Jake, about the kid that's aging too fast. It was one of those movies. His co-star, who was, I think he said he was 12 at the time, on the set there, Robin Williams had his own little trailer. And it was like, when he went in there, that's Robin's space. You just give Robin a space. And he's like, I didn't know anything about it. It was Robin Williams. He was such a quirky, funny person on the set, just lighting everybody's light up. And it's like, I had to go see him because there was something I wanted to tell him. And I was just excited. And, he was the most joyous person I knew. It's like, how could he not want to hear about this story? And he's like, he went in there and, Robin essentially was sitting in front of his desk with his head, with his elbows on the desk and his face in his hands, just sitting there, like, look. And the kid said, he's like, he looked in abject misery. He was like, what is wrong? And he looked devastated. And he went on. I don't know if he was giving the interview to try and make himself look better, or if he actually knew this. I kind of question, because now it's, however many, 15 years later, 20 years later, whatever it was. Did he really remember all of this stuff? But you remember a discussion Robin was talking about do it 5 years he was on cocaine. He was high on cocaine. It was like, after that, he never felt the same after that. And he blamed the 5 years of cocaine for his just often crippling depression afterwards. So I think that's why it popped up, is I remember seeing that. I think it was earlier today I watched that, and it randomly popped up, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
They now actually say spoon theory. You know what spoon theory is? They actually call it spoon theory now. It's got a name. Somebody came up to me and said, have you heard of spoon theory? It's like, is this the thing with this, you need so many spoons every time you have soup, and you only have so many spoons in a day? Like, yeah. I was like, okay, it was a story somebody said to use as an analogy, and now it's spoon theory. I guess it's an official psychological thing. But do you know what it is?
Yes.
All right,
as a matter of fact, I have to tell the wife, like when she was telling me, I have one collection for a contested, essentially it was a contested bill over a trash container. They gave us a bigger trash container than we ordered and we had originally paid for. Well, the wife went ahead and filled it up, and then they charged us after the fact because we put more trash than what we, anyway.
Yeah.
So they tried charging us after the fact, and it was because they didn't have any correct sizes. They gave us a bigger one. So it's like, well, why are you charging us for this? You didn't tell us this. So anyway, it's like $40. And I was like, I'm just going to pay it. And she's like, oh, no, that's not right. You should really contest this. It's like, you can get it off your credit report and all this stuff. And I'm like, I finally had to tell her, it's like, look, it's $41. I don't have the spoons to deal with trying to fight this. I'll just pay it, get it off, and move on. It's not enough money for me to worry about, and it's not worth the mental spoons. And she's like, oh, I get it now.
It's a great way I think it's really a great way to put things. And my wife and I can communicate a little bit better now with spoons. So I think it's worth knowing and understanding. It makes common sense. It's not like it's a huge breakthrough, but it's good stuff. One of the things, there are plenty of good people who either have more spoons than most people, or it takes them fewer spoons to do good things or whatever. And there's, you take a look at the difference between introverts and extroverts. Introverts can be just as, you know, a real introvert can be the life of the party if they choose to be, and sometimes can be even more popular and more successful than extroverts. The reason being, as introverts, they've spent more time studying and watching human behavior. The real difference between an introvert and an extrovert is an introvert, it actually takes energy in order to interact with other people. An extrovert gain energy from interacting with other people. They actually can have more energy when they're done with interactions and say, oh yeah, you know, I hung out at a party, now I'm ready to start the day or to what, you know, and an extrovert's like, no, I'm exhausted, I want to lock myself in a room and not talk to anybody. But in terms of, so you take all of this and mix it into a human being. I think there are plenty of human beings that have enough spoons that they can, you know, give out spoons all day and actually feel more refreshed and feel better for it. And there are ones who can't. But the best people that I've met, some of them are of that first type, but some of them, unfortunately, are of a kind that, for whatever reason, feel that everybody's more deserving of spoons than they are. And they go until they've given away every spoon they've got left because they don't know how to do anything else. And because they hate themselves if they don't. And that's always depressed. And it's a lot of the best people I've ever met are that way. And maybe that's what makes them a good person, is they're giving maybe too much and not holding anything on to themselves. And that's not every good person, by the way. That's not, I don't want to sit there and say, hey, if it's a good person, they're, you know, but it is something that I've noticed. You know, the people who do that. Anyways.
It's an interesting, I find myself watching weird things at weird times, or listening to weird things at weird times, just because it for some reason, something sparked my interest in something, or I ended up down some rabbit hole where I originally started looking for something else. And then, you know, that evil algorithm decided, hey, you like this, maybe you'll like this too. And so they popped something up in front of me and I'm like, what is this? And it was talking about empaths. And there was a couple of speakers that kept getting popped up that gave lots of extensive talks about empaths and how they function and how to deal with them and what makes somebody an actual empath. And I wish I could remember now the name of these two individuals that kept popping up. One was a man, one was a woman. And I cannot remember their names now. And I, of course, it was one of those weird rabbit holes that I ended up in, and I found it all really fascinating. But then something else shiny caught my attention, so I never went back to look to see if any of these people were actually credible. Like, you know, they gave a whole bunch of talks, including TED Talks, about some of these subjects. You know, but I never went back to say, hey, this person's actually really a quack and a total scam artist. You know, maybe that might have been the fact. So I can't say for sure. You know, but I just thought it was, the talks they were giving were very interesting. So if they were complete scam artists, they did a pretty damn good job. But the one lady was talking about how somebody became an empath, because lots of people, you know, claim to be empathic and they're really not. You know, they might be really good at catching social cues, but what really makes an empath is somebody who's, you know, a small child essentially, who's been under such threat of great bodily harm or death that their very life depends on the ability to catch even the slightest shift in somebody's demeanor, personality, actions, etc. That it's literally a life or death issue to that child. And so when I found out what actually ends up making empaths, I was like, wow, that's really kind of traumatic and brutal.
Dark.
Like because at first I was thinking, oh, wow, empath, somebody that can, that's got to be a really useful skill. You know? And they're like, yeah, no, it's really not. It's like, you don't understand the dark part of what being an empath means. And the fact that, you know, many adult empaths are so hyper-tuned to that because they're still looking for that threat to their life. And it still induces some of those kinds of stresses. That's why they continue to search for those ever slight things, and they can pick up on all those really slight things. They can walk into a room and they can tell you the dangerous people in that room, you know, fairly quickly. And I was like, wow, that's brutal. Well, I think maybe I'll go research something else now.
Well, I think Ty just said that. You know, there's a difference between empathic and hypervigilance, and I do think that may be more in the second category. But empath is one of those words that science fiction has ruined so many concepts now at this point. And don't get me wrong, I love science fiction. I think it's created a lot of great concepts too. But so I should say bad science fiction. I was getting into a debate with a Christian about what created the universe, what could have created the universe, how could we have started. And I strongly believe, and I believe this for a long time, and we're getting more and more evidence to support this, that there's actually probably more universes out there. We are not the only universe. There's even some evidence that one even collided with us a while back. And the reason I think this is, it makes absolute counterintuitive sense to me. Complete intuitive sense. So if you take a look at the first sort of, when we were tribes, 100,000, 200,000 years ago, we're nothing but tribes. Every tribe thinks it's the center of the universe. Every tribe thinks it's the only tribe out there. And then they encounter more tribes. Like, oh my God, there's other tribes. And, okay, fine. Every country would then think it's the only country, except for maybe its neighbors that it meets and it starts wars with them. But, okay, fine. Every continent, no, Europe's the only continent. There are no other continents out there. Well, it turns out not to be true. Well, yeah, but Earth is the only planet. And there's only one sun in the entire universe. That's our sun. That's it. Bruno was hanged for the realization that, stars are actually other suns and our sun is just a star like any other. Like, well, that's obviously not true. That can't possibly be true because you see how small the other stars are and look at how big the sun is. Which I love to get into also how human intuition is really fucking bad. But at any rate, so it turns out we're not the only planet. Turns out we're not the only solar system. So, yeah, but there's only one galaxy in the entire universe, and that's going to be, no, there's lots of galaxies too. And so now at the boundary of our knowledge is the universe, and we say there's only one universe, really? If that's true, it would be the first time in the history of Mother Nature that she's done something only once. I find that very, very hard to believe, and every time we've said that, we've been wrong. So I don't think there's only one universe. And so there's the multiverse theory, which is that there are many universes in the midst of this larger cosmos that we don't understand, but we're trying to get like a theoretical knowledge of. That's the multiverse. But ever since, now Marvel comes out, so I say, well, I think there's a multiverse. Like, wow, so you think there's like alternate realities and there's other yous. It's like, no, that's comic books. I don't get my science from comic books, dude. I don't like watch the MCU and say, oh, that shit's real. But apparently, no, there's a multiverse, and there's another universe where I am Batman, which then I'm sitting there going, why the fuck am I in this one? But at any rate, yeah.
I don't want to cut you off if you're not done.
The short of it is multiverse is a concept that there are other universes completely unrelated to ours in a larger cosmos. They may even be colliding with us, yada, yada, yada. What you see in what they call the multiverse in, in Marvel Universe, it has to do with a theory in quantum mechanics that every possible reality actually does exist, that there are alternate realities, and every possible one does exist. If you flip a coin, it comes down both heads, and tails, the one you happen to be in, is when a quantum probability field collapses, that's the one you end up in. There you go. That's Schrodinger. That's what they base Marvel Universe on. But now you can't talk about multiverse without people laughing their asses off any more than when you talk about an empath. Like, oh, you think psychics? It's like, no, there really are empaths, but all it really means is empathy to a very high degree, and really one that you can't shut off to, which can be its own problem. But hey, that was what I was going to say. What were you going to say?
Yeah, that theory about the probability wave. That's a big premise in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought it was kind of like the movie I keep telling you to watch, and you still have not watched it. I cannot believe, Mr. In Time, that you have not watched this movie. Don't Look Up. It is hilarious in kind of the same way. You have not seen it. I told you to watch it. You still have not watched it.
I did see everything.
After you see it, you'll call me back and go, oh my God, that's hilarious. And pertinent to today. But anyway, Everything Everywhere All at Once, another absolutely hysterical thing. If you ever actually go and watch it, the scene with the rock with the googly eyes that starts moving, hey, you can't do that. I can do anything I want, is absolutely hilarious. I don't know why, but when that thing popped up, I lost my freaking lunch and just started laughing. It was hilarious. But yeah, that was a really funny thing that pushed on that whole theory of, essentially the probability function collapsing, and it's like every possible decision that you've ever made, any choice you've ever made, subconscious or not, you in some other universe you made a different choice and ended up going different places, and that was hilarious. And I wasn't expecting, I didn't know what to expect from that movie when I watched it. People were like, "Oh no, it's a good movie. You should watch it. It was pretty inventive and pretty original." And I watched it. And at first, it gets a little hard to get into because it starts a little bit slow, and then you're not really sure what's going on. And then once it starts getting into stuff happening, and you start getting some explanations, it's like, "Oh wow, that's actually a really interesting view on things." And it gets hilarious. Hot dog fingers. Oh my God. Hot dog fingers.
I did not want to see that movie. And I didn't want to see it because I'm not very much into art house films. And I kind of thought that that's what it was. I've seen a number of art house films because my wife is into them. So, we were going to do a family movie night, and we usually do something that the kids are going to like. Every now and then we try to introduce the kids to like an old timer movie like The Matrix or something like that. It's just like The Matrix is not an old timer movie. Yes, it is. I'm getting so old. My birthday's on May 24th. I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be like, I think I'm going to be 49. I think that's right. Got to figure that out. But at any rate, so we try to pick something that the girls will like, but something that because there's only so many times you can watch Dora the Explorer. And so my wife said, let's do Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I had seen some trailers for it, and I was like, oh, no. It's going to be like a poorly done, it's going to be like a poorly done either Matrix or poorly done, like, time travel. I was like, no. But I got outvoted, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit through it. It was a really good movie. And you're right, it did start slow. It had to. It didn't start slow because of bad writing. It's because it had to. It was that slow start that made everything else work in the movie. If you weren't pulled right into what made it so slow in the beginning, nothing else would have worked. It was an unbelievably good fucking movie. It was really fucking good.
It was. It was really. I like I said, I had seen some. I was like, oh, that looks like it might be interesting, and so it's like I said, oh, I want to sit down. I'm going to watch it. But I wasn't expecting a whole lot. And I got really concerned when it started off with subtitles. And I'm like, oh, no, please don't tell me this is some indie Korean movie. And, it's like,
that's what I thought, too.
And it's like, oh, I don't want to. And it's funny because when I watch movies, I have a tablet and I've got some streaming services. So when I don't watch a lot, like I hardly ever watch any series, like television series, but occasionally it's like, I don't want to watch a movie, so I'll sit down and watch a movie. And on my tablet, I actually have turned the subtitles on because the noise around in the truck stop, and with this kind of the way the streaming thing is, when I hook it into my truck's stereo system, sometimes it can be hard if they don't get the sounds quite right in the movie. It can be really hard to hear what's going on, what they're trying to say. It's like, okay, I can hear that they're talking, but I can't make out exactly what it's saying. Anyway, so yeah, it can be hard to hear sometimes. So I turn the subtitles on so that I can kind of catch. Now I'll keep a slight eye down there on the subtitles and to see what it is they're saying. And sometimes some of the stuff that pops up on that subtitle system is kind of funny. But if I have to read subtitles to watch a movie, I have a hard time doing that because it pulls almost all my attention to trying to read the subtitles fast enough to figure out what's going on. So I was concerned when it first came on. And then my next thing is, after it kind of went through this, it was like, I wonder, are Chinese families really like that? Do they just like speak mostly Mandarin and then just randomly pop into a sentence or two here or there in English? It's like, does that really happen? It's kind of weird. So I was really concerned for the first bit of that, and like I said, it is slow. Once you get into the movie, you realize why it's, you're right. It absolutely needed to be slow at the beginning to really set the stage for what kind of happens later on, and to get the idea across as well. So it ended up being such a great movie. I loved it a lot. Not quite as much. I didn't like it quite, or I should say I didn't like it.
Here we go. Not as much as Don't Look Up, but yeah.
Well, I should say it was very enjoyable. But Don't Look Up, I'm like literally immediately watched it again. When I finished that movie, I was like, oh my God. I stopped and I immediately watched the movie again. And then, like, not even a week later, I went home and made my wife sit down and watch it. And we sat down and watched it together. I was like, you have to watch this. If I were there, I would be like knocking on your door with my tablet and that movie on, saying, no, you're going to sit down, you're going to allocate the next hour and a half, and you're going to sit here and watch this with me. You have to see this. So even though I thought it was a superb movie, I didn't immediately watch it a second time, whereas I did with Don't Look Up. You got to watch that.
The other thing about it though is, the woman who plays the main character. Now, she won an Academy Award. The movie won Best Picture, which I didn't know. I don't follow the Academy Awards though anymore, like I used to. I was like, who gives a fuck? But I was just like, oh shit! And I mean, it's rare for a largely Chinese movie, any movie that's not an American movie, to win an Academy Award, let alone several of them. But one of the things I also liked about it is it does end up having a good deal of martial arts in it. And when the martial arts come in, I thought it was just going to be kind of cheese whiz, because I was like, there's no way they can get, she's an older woman, what kind of training? She's not, Keanu Reeves here. This isn't a MMA, what is she going to, once it started going and they just started doing, it wasn't what you'd expect out of like full MMA fighters, but it was, I'm sitting there going, yeah, this is essentially a martial arts flick too. On top of that, I was like, holy shit!
And the ridiculousness of some of the things that again, if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about when I say hot dog fingers, they've got to watch the movie, and you will start laughing your ass off. A rock with googly eyes. You'll start, get away from me. No, I can do what I want. No, get away, and the rocks start moving. It is hilarious. Because it's completely ridiculous. The butt plugs to give me the power.
Oh God, you had to bring that up too, right? You had to bring up butt plugs.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good. Thank you for that. Yep. There's the imagery. I need that imagery again, because I was with my girls too, and like, Daddy, what are they doing with the? Oh my God! It's like, yeah.
The guy shows up with the Roman candles.
Yeah. Okay. I think we get the picture. We get it. Hold on. YouTube has just like, oh yes, you have been your family's been demonetized 6 generations. What the fuck? That seems harsh. That's unusual.
I got sidetracked.
Really?
No, it's not unusual for me to get sidetracked, but I got sidetracked because of that probability wave theory. We were talking about the universes and why you believe that there's likely to be a multiverse. And one of my pet theories that I heard a astronomer talking about that said, well, we don't have any evidence for this, but we know that it could be possible. The math says that it could be possible, but we don't actually know, and we can't really research it because we don't know what happens beyond the event horizon of a black hole. But they're like, here's something to consider. Black holes, suck an enormous amount of matter and energy and everything into them. And we know there are super black holes, big, huge, gargantuan ones. And it's like, what if it's the case that the Big Bang is what's on the other side, what we consider the Big Bang, the beginning of our universe, is what's on the other side of a black hole? Because when you get to gravity that high, you think about, well, what if, the closer you get to the event horizon of a black hole, the slower time moves for you in relation to everything farther away from that black hole. So you could theoretically have this, because we've been observing black holes, and we estimate, okay, well, this black hole's got to have been around for billions of years because it's, 2.3 billion years away. So, what we can detect of it, 2.3 billion light years away. So it's like, we know these things have been around for a while, and the closer you get, the slower time gets, time dilation. Yeah. And so what happens if once you get into that black hole, time almost comes to a complete stop, or, almost comes to a complete stop. It can't completely come to a complete stop, or this theory wouldn't be valid. This hypothesis wouldn't be valid, but it comes so close as to us to be indiscernible from stopping, but not quite. So, we've been around for 13.8 billion years. Well, then on the other side of that black hole, it appears from that side that we had a sudden expansion of all of the matter in the universe. Matter and energy used to be in like the size of a pinhead, and it's suddenly expanded. But from our side of the black hole, that's been going on for 20 billion years. It's been sucking matter into that. And it reaches a critical point eventually where it expands into another universe. So you have universes creating daughter universes, child universes, through black holes. And I was like, okay, that is fascinating. And the lady was like, she was on Neil deGrasse Tyson's show talking about black holes. And she's like, that's kind of, the math holds up for that. It's like the math says that's possible. But we don't know for sure because, as far as we know, maybe math is irrelevant when it comes to what goes on beyond the event horizon. So it's like we can't check this in any way, shape, or form. All we know is that it's mathematically possible. But, because she was, and I was like, okay, that's my new pet hypothesis for, where did the Big Bang come from? Well, you see, we're on the other side of a black hole, and that Big Bang was the sudden expansion of all the matter that got sucked into a super black hole in a parent universe. So that's my new pet theory for universe. What's going on with our universes?
I've never heard that one, but that one's. I like the ones that are elegant, and that one sounds elegant. It sounds to me much more elegant than there are other ones. There is some evidence, because I had researched this a while back, in particular for discussions like with the guy I was having this argument with. There is some evidence for a multiverse and other universes, and possibly even that we had collided with one. I forget what it all is. I have it all documented somewhere. A lot of it was in Science magazine and a few others. But we almost had Neil deGrasse Tyson on. I knew a guy, it was Bill Ludlow, who knew him and had actually helped another show get, what's his name, Universe from Nothing.
Alison Krauss. Not Alison Krauss, Dr. Krauss.
Yeah. So he knew Krauss, he knew Krauss, he knew Tyson, and he was going to help us get Neil deGrasse Tyson on. Now, unfortunately, Ludlow had died, and after that I felt like I couldn't really contact Tyson on my own. I think a year later I did. I was just like, you may or may not know who I was, but I forgot about it for a while because I was like, there was no way. And unfortunately, Ludlow was a really good guy, and that was tough. But we did almost have him on, and I may take another stab at it at some point.
You better. And if you come back and you say, well, we almost had him on for a second, so I'm coming after you, and I'm going to stab you a lot with a rubber knife because it will hurt more.
I'm going to use a spoon.
If you don't get, I'll have enough spoons for that.
Yeah. So let's see.
I would die to be able to talk to Dr. Tyson like that, to be able to interview him about things. The interesting thing that I believe it was this lady, it might have been somebody else on a different, I've listened, astronomy is kind of an interesting thing to me. So it's like I listened to Dr. Tyson's podcast, and I've got several different books on astronomy. And so I like to listen to them, and it might have been something I listened to in one of the books. I can't remember exactly where this came from, but they were talking about dark energy and dark matter. And they're like, look, there's more gravity in the universe than we can observe, cause for. So there's way more, and we call it dark energy because, or dark matter because we can't see it, but yet it has to be, it's generating enough gravity to measure the gravity. Yeah. So we know something has to be there. And that's been true. You talk to anybody who talks about dark. It's like we know it's there, but we don't know why it's there. So we can't see anything. So it's dark to us. And somebody had posited that it's like, look, if some of these multiverse theories are true, then some of these other universes may be close enough to us that we're feeling the effects of their mass near us. Therefore, we have higher amounts of gravity. But because we can't actually see those universes, we have no way of detecting them other than their gravity effects that we're measuring. We can't see them. So that's where they made the claim. That's probably where the extra gravity and energy that we are detecting is coming from. It's coming from very near galaxies or universes that we can't see. Yeah, universes that we can't see. So it's like they believed very much in a multiverse, and that was one of the things that said that dark energy and dark matter is what convinced them that the multiverse theory was most likely correct. Was because we can't detect these other universes, but their effects are still there, and so that's why we're measuring more energy and more gravity than should be there from the observable universe. So lots of interesting hypotheses about some of these things.
Well, like I said,
I'm just a space nerd.
For me, it's always been intuitive that there has to be something like that. There just has to be. And the reason is, and it's just because, I know I'm going to bump into Hume's induction here, but the reality is every time we've said there's a limit of some kind, and we've said, no, it can't possibly go beyond this planet or this solar system or this galaxy, we've always been fucking wrong. Every single time. So just judging by history, what's the likelihood that the universe is really the end of all of it? Especially since we don't even know how it started. So if we don't know how it started, and we've never been right when we thought we've hit the end of everything, ever. And we've thought that a lot if you look back at the history of science. It's like,
that
no,
reminds me
there's no way.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was done.
Oh, it's just every time you talk about it, it's like, we've never been right when we thought we got to the end of something. And it reminds me of a quote from, or a line from the movie Men in Black. Tommy Lee Jones's character says it, and, butchering it horribly because I don't remember the exact quote. It was like 1,000 years ago, we knew the earth was flat. 500 years ago, we knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 100 years ago, we knew that our galaxy was the only one in existence. Think of what we'll know tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's funny.
I always found that line profound because it's like, they're actually, you're right. That's such a profound statement.
I think we said this either on the last one or on sometime before that, but we were talking about what's going to unify man and what's going to end war? It's going to be when we find another species outside the planet. But everyone's like, because we're going to have to defend ourselves against it. I was like, oh, no. I mean, first of all, if it can travel faster than light, which it's probably going to have to do, then there's no war. If it decides on a war, we've lost. But that notwithstanding, I have reasons for this. I can get into it if people are interested. I firmly believe that you would not be able to achieve space flight. This was another one I disagreed very strongly with Stephen Hawking on. But keep in mind, this isn't Stephen Hawking's fucking field, so it's not like I'm saying they're going, yes, I read his paper on physics and disagreed. No, but he said, somebody asked him what happens if aliens come to this planet. He goes, well, every time we've gone to another continent or anything like that, it's always been bad for the natives. What do you think is going to happen when aliens come here? I think he's dead wrong. And I think why is also reasonably obvious. But that notwithstanding, I do think that aliens would have far more to worry about us being hostile towards them. It's going to unify us, but not because they're attacking us, but because we're going to say, ooh, something else to murder.
Well, I mean, it's like Dr. Tyson also kind of addresses this as well. And probably because he gets asked about it a lot, the aliens in the world. And he points out, it's like, well, why haven't we seen any, intelligent species out there? Why haven't we seen intelligence out there? And he's like, well, what do you mean by intelligent? It's like we are intelligent creatures because we have decided we were. Like, what do we have to compare to? It's like you look at the chimpanzee and something like 97% of our genome is almost identical. We share like 97. I think it's 97%. He says 99% in the talk that I remember him watching, but I think it's more like 97. But it's like that's just a few percentage points further evolved or differently evolved than our nearest relative, chimpanzees and bonobos. It's like when you think about what can a chimpanzee do? It's like complex thought, not a thing. Even some of the simplest concepts, not comprehended by chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are capable of doing things of like our toddlers are able to do. And, they're like, well, look at what a difference that 3-ish% makes. And it's like, well, let's keep going on the continuum there. And we go 3% beyond us. And now maybe that's what a spacefaring civilization looks like. And they come across us. And they're like, oh, look, here's the smartest people of this race of life that we found. And they can do what little Johnny, our 2-year-old Johnny, can do. And, some of our simplest concepts are incomprehensible to them. It's like we're only considered intelligent life because we have deemed it so. It could be the fact that we are no smarter than dogs in the rest of the universe, and that no other life out there, spacefaring life out there, has much interest in us at all, because we're not even considered sentient beings to them.
Yep. Well, and that's what I think that's the more likely thing. There's a couple of other potential possibilities. They may also have done it. They may have also talked with us, but again, been so advanced. I mean, do fish really understand that they're in a fish tank and that there's a whole world outside that tank? Do they understand that, what a human being is if they tap on the window? Do they understand the difference between that and just a natural part of their environment? How much do fish really understand about, maybe the fish are sitting there going like, I wonder if there's anything else in this universe. We could have come into contact with it and have no idea. It also probably, it may be it's come into contact with us and don't want to be identified. The reason I don't worry about the motives of aliens coming, and Stephen Hawking had said, yeah, they're gonna wipe us out and take whatever they want. I doubt it, and here's why I doubt it. The biggest question we have to ask ourselves now, in terms of whether or not we're ever going to get off this planet and colonize other planets, the biggest question we have to ask ourselves is: are we going to live long enough to do it, or are we going to wipe ourselves out? That's it. That's it. We have the ability to wipe ourselves out. We're aware that we're doing things that will eventually wipe us out. So the question is, will our ability to work together, which is based largely on empathy, and also, self-interest, what's it called? Something self-interest. Enlightened self-interest. And empathy. Empathy is a huge part of it, though. Realizing that other people are suffering the same way we are, and that can bring us together to do things bigger than us. If our empathy is insufficient, we will not take care of ourselves, take care of each other, not fix our own problems, and we will get wiped out either by nuclear war or by an environment that we let, get destroyed because we're too much short-term thinkers than long-term thinkers. The only way we are going to survive as a species is if we, as a species, are better at those collective things. If we are capable of empathy to a sufficient degree that we can overcome our own immediate desire to see destruction or get what it is that we want and pass the marshmallow test on the largest scale imaginable. I have to believe that any species that is capable of surviving long enough to get to space and create a drive that's faster than light, could actually come in and visit us, has to have passed that point. They can't have done it without, and this is just based on a sample size of one. This is just based on how I observe, the evolution of species on our planet and how we form societies and what has made the successful ones versus the non-successful ones. It's based, we have to have an ability to engage in violence. We have to have, because nature is brutal, man is brutal, and we have to defend ourselves against these things. But it's those societies that have the ability to also take care for themselves, care for others, and harmonize more with nature and with their environment than oppose it, that are successful. So I have to believe any species that can pass the point where they could come and actually visit us would have to have a significantly higher degree of empathy than we do, because I don't think that I've succeeded without it. So that's my counter to Stephen Hawking's argument.
My argument is also this, because Stephen Hawking is looking at far be it for me to say that I think Stephen Hawking is, dumber in something than I am. But the one thing that always struck me about his explanation was like, look, there hasn't been an example in human history where, new natives coming to a new land and end poorly for the natives. And I'm like, yeah, but you're looking at a single planet with incredibly limited resources. There are more resources available in the Kuiper Belt in our solar system than are available on Earth. What does Earth have that couldn't be much for a spacefaring civilization that they couldn't get much easier from like an asteroid belt? There's way more gold, there's way more iron, there's all the raw materials of anything that would be needed in industry is available in much larger quantities and much easier to extract in the Kuiper Belt than exist on Earth. The only thing you could say, well, some sort of organic matter is, but if they're a space, if they've gotten to the point with technology where they can live in space, all they need is the raw materials, and they could create whatever it is they need of organic material right in space. Why would they need to invade the Earth and subdue humans at all?
I got a quote.
Let's face it. Go ahead.
The sinister porpoise. Pretty sure that in his current state, my cat Athena is a better physicist than Stephen Hawking. Fair.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, it's a bit like when we were covering Shinzo Abe, and that was, again, that's part of I'm fascinated by language, and I remember distinctly, and somebody in the live chat was like, "Oh, that's unfair." Like, no, that's exactly what's going on. You have to understand how language is used. When the Prime Minister of Japan said that our doctors are doing everything they can for Shinzo Abe, I was like, okay, that means he's dead. Like, what do you mean that means he's dead? The doctors are doing everything they can. Yeah, and my primary care physician is doing everything he can for Abraham Lincoln. I mean, it's a vapid statement or a vacuous statement. It doesn't mean anything. The only reason to give it is you don't want to give the actual answer. That's the only reason you say something like that, is because it's technically true and it provides hope, but you don't want to give the real answer, which it has to be he's dead. Which it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, and why would aliens travel all the way here? I would imagine that space travel for some sort of organic based intelligence would be fairly. I mean, even with advanced technology, I would still think that it's energy intensive. Whether because I think the only way. I don't remember which astrophysicist, he was on Joe Rogan Experience, was talking about, traveling the world and stuff. And it's like, look, when you look at the math, about the only way that we can figure out to go faster than light is to create wormholes and travel through the wormholes. That's but the energy that we theoretically need to make one is pretty great. And he was talking about warp drive. We're like, yeah, but in order to warp the fabric of space and time would take way too much energy to do that, to really be feasible. And theoretically, again, he was speaking everything theoretically because none of this has been tested at all. But it's like, just looking at the math of it, it's like a warp type drive, which would theoretically be able to move you faster than light. Just it takes more energy to do that than it would to just create a wormhole. So he thought that the only real way to travel interstellar distances would be using wormholes.
Yeah, it's not sexy, it's not like in terms of science fiction writing, because you don't try. But yeah, Porpoise has. That's the way they do it in Dune. And that was one of Event Horizon. I think could have been a spectacular movie. It was instead a mediocre film, and I'm not usually into horror films, so. But that Sam Neill says that, and I don't know why, I just love that line. So what's the closest distance between 2 points? So he says it's a straight line. I said, nope, 0. And it's just like, yeah, and that's how you fold space and time to a singularity, and then you're literally at the same point, and then you just unfold it, but you're now on the other side. I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think I cut you off, so please continue.
That's what the Spacing Guild does in Dune, is they fold space. So yeah, but you think about that, it's like, okay, well, it's got to be pretty cost intensive to try and do that for at least an organic life form. So what makes you think that they would come here at all and risk themselves in any way to do that? And a civilization, look at what we've accomplished with technology. A civilization that has mastered the ability to create wormholes and actually travel the universe, they're not coming themselves. They're sending a bunch of drones, and they'll survey, thousands of light years at a time with different drones.
Here we go.
So it's like, why would they come themselves?
Oh, the conservative, you're replacing interstellar populations with drones and robots. What, aliens don't have a right to a job? Is that what you're saying? Is that it, Isandring? Oh my God!
No, I'm just saying that would be way more efficient, because remember, capitalism works off of efficiency as well, and the most efficient way of doing things would be to send out all of the drones to survey large areas until you find something of interest. And once you find something of interest, you can send a few more drones to do a little bit more investigation. And then once you've decided, hey, this is something I really want to invest the energy in, then they would come.
Yeah, human beings or whatever the species is just too expensive to send the biologic, and you have to pay them, So I'm surprised you're not demanding they send children. I'm sorry, what?
He also mentioned that just based off of our kind of trajectory that we're going on right now, he's like, it's also entirely possible that the most intelligent life out there is probably artificial. Somebody created their own AI system and it ended up going all Skynet and becoming dominant, and the actual biological life forms ended up dying off because they couldn't keep up with the advancements of the artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence ended up creating its entire own society and its own life force. And so he said that seems like it's more likely too. And, but I think it was Krauss that was talking about when you look at how, oh no, it wasn't Krauss, it was Dr. Cox. Was talking about, he's like, look at how quickly life arose on Earth, about 3.8 billion years ago. It's like that was pretty quick. That's pretty shortly after the Earth actually cooled. We ended up with life, but for the next 3 billion years, it was all single organism life. So he made the conjecture that I think life's probably fairly common. Looking at how quickly it developed on Earth, but that advanced life like us, or complex organisms, probably is pretty rare. Look at how long it took 3 billion years for it to arrive on Earth. So that was what his conjecture was, is that I think that if we actually were able to get out there and really look at a bunch of places, we would probably find life all over the place and find out that it's not particularly uncommon, but finding complex life like us probably is rare.
Yeah,
but again, we go back to Neil deGrasse Tyson going, we're only considered complex life because we have deemed it so.
We're the ones we hold the yardstick. We're like, yeah, this yardstick, we come all the way to the top of the yardstick. Wow. It's like, yeah, who made the yardstick? But Tyson had said another one too that I really like. I'd like to hear him explain this. I have no doubt he's right. I saw him live. He did a great, I gotta tell you about this. But before we do that, one of the things that he had said that I really liked was, imagine, taking a measuring cup and going to the ocean. Now the ocean is filled with life. I mean, there's just life everywhere in the ocean. You take a measuring cup, scoop it in, pick it up, look at it, say, well, there are no whales in here, so I guess there's no life in the ocean. Because that's what we do. That's what, when people say there's no life in outer space, that's what they've done. And I'd love to see him explain the analogy, but I do like that one. He came to my town. I came to Massachusetts, and he does speaking tours. He is amazing. He's a lot of fun to watch live, full of energy, hilarious. But, he was telling jokes, and he was doing his whole thing. And then he had called out a few people in the audience, and then he was talking to somebody and was just like, why are you here? What did you want to talk about? She goes, I don't know who you are. My boyfriend really likes you and brought me. He goes, this is our first date. He goes, okay, great. Because if your boyfriend brought you here for a first date, science nerd. But anyways, and so he just goes into the whole thing. And he goes, okay, so what I'm going to do next, you're not going to understand. So it's got nothing really to do with science. He had a projection thing. He was going through slides. He said, my next slide has one word. And when that word comes up, 90% of the audience in here is going to explode. They're going to go crazy. And you're going to have no idea why. And so if you're somebody here who has no idea who I am, doesn't know much about me, doesn't know about science, you're going to take a look at this word and say, it's just a word. Why? But I just want you to prepare yourself, because when this word comes on the screen, there's going to be a reaction. And I was sitting there going like, what the fuck is he? It's like, okay, he's done a great show so far, so it's got to be something. But what hits next on a slide, word comes up, Pluto. Like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, yes. We gotta talk. We gotta talk. He's like, it's not a planet. He just starts yelling at the audience. It's not a planet. It's not a planet. And everybody's just going crazy. What the fuck kind of nerd am I that I was just like, yeah, dude. When I went to go see, did you know I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson live? And it literally did. It exploded. Everybody. Now, of course, part of that was because he hyped it up, but the reality is he's still in the doghouse for that one. He is still in the doghouse for that one.
And he tells people all left and right. It's like, Pluto's not a planet. Get over it. And I'm like, well, it is smaller than our moon.
Have you ever heard of Bode's Law?
I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
It gets
mixed in with all the other laws.
I'm going to have to look up for the actual now. Well, they call it Bode's Law. Hold on a sec.
I get it confused with Godwin's Law and the Pareto distribution. Well, actually, I know what the Pareto distribution is, but there's a lot of those that pop up, and I'm like, okay, which one was that one? I've heard it. I know I've heard it, but I can't give you the definition because I don't remember.
Well, this one's interesting because there's no way to know if it's a law or not. It seems like it really couldn't be a law because it's so fucking arbitrary, but it does seem to be true. And then the more we learned about the universe, the more we realized, well, it's kind of true if you massage things a little bit. Where did that window just go? That would be why. Let's switch that over. So basically, I think it's if you take every prime number, I got to remember, I can look it up, or somebody can look it up, Bode's Law, take every prime number, add 3 or do something like that, and you will get in astronomical units the order of all 9 planets. And so what Bode did was said, look, there is in fact
it's a formulaic prediction of spacing between planets in any given solar system.
Yeah.
The formula suggests that extending outward, each planet should be approximately twice as far from the sun as the one before. I should have known that since it's an astronomy one.
Well, and so he, but what shocked everybody about it was he predicted where certain planets would be, and it was based on this very simple mathematical formula. And he said, no, it's a natural universe thing. Well, it turns out the other planets that we found don't follow Bode's Law, so it's probably not a thing. But it's nonetheless, it's okay. So let's see, we've got, I wonder, do I still have that? Let me just check on something here. So we've got, we do have one thing. It's a bit of a throwback to just from a few seconds ago, but let's see here. We've got this from Titan. I don't know if you've got your, it's,
I love those commercials. I love the Most Interesting Man in the World commercials. That was just pure marketing genius. And I'm sad the guy passed away.
Did he pass? I know they retired it before he passed away. I didn't realize he'd also passed away. I don't know why they retired it.
Well, maybe they just retired him. I thought he'd passed away, and that's why they changed the Most Interesting Man in the World.
No, they for whatever reason retired the campaign, but there's some campaigns, where's the beef, less tastes great, less filling, a few others that have just for whatever reason captured the imagination, and that's one of them. You can find.
I guess they wanted to go out on the high point so that everybody would remember fondly Most Interesting Man in the World. Whereas if they had done it to death, eventually they will hate you.
That's true. That was sort of the MASH principle. MASH sort of ended at the height of its popularity, and for Cheers, everybody said, speaking of dating myself, for Cheers, everybody was just like, yeah, if it had ended a season or 2 seasons sooner, and by the end, it was just,
Well, same thing with Seinfeld too. I mean, they went out, or Jerry ended his show kind of at the height of it. They were still like the most popular show on television at the time when he decided to end it. I remember he got pretty offended at Larry King because Larry King didn't know that the show wasn't canceled.
Oh, he thought that they had been canceled, and so Jerry got all.
Well, I think he was just, it's like, no, you ended it. They didn't cancel you. And I don't think that. I think it was an interviewing question. I don't think that he really thought they were canceled. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but Jerry got offended in that. Yeah, it's a pretty viral clip. You should watch it. Jerry gets offended at I just said his name.
Larry King.
I suddenly lost the guy's name. Larry King, yes. So it's like, you think they canceled me? Do you know who I am? That was the most popular show on television. I chose to end it. It was.
I'm going to need to see that.
Yeah, it got a little contentious.
You know who I am?
Just look up Larry King, Jerry Seinfeld. Canceling Jerry Seinfeld show.
So
it's not even all that long. So. Why has the live chat gone away? Feeling all alone out here.
I'm gonna have to look at that. I still see it. I don't know, but
I'm sure it's on my end. It just keeps telling me, please sign in to complete this action. It's like, but I am signed in.
Sake. Oh, YouTube is at this point. I don't. YouTube's done a couple of things that give me some hope. In Time has always had a very difficult relationship with YouTube, and I don't see that necessarily changing much. Although recently it's improved. Getting hit the way we do for the things that we do, it's just like, and those of you who've been around for any length of time, like when we covered, when Liz Cheney was up on her primaries, we decided to cover it. We decided to cover it because I'm not really a fan of her politics. I certainly was not a fan of her father. But she stood up for what was right. She did it knowing it was going to end her career. And so I wasn't with her, I guess. So I always say this as I didn't want her to be alone when she was, I was like, it's not like I was sitting there with her, but I was just like, no, we're going to be covering it when she gets her ass handed to her in her primaries because she stood up and did the right fucking thing for this country, which we need more of. We just need more of it on either side of the aisle. I don't give a shit. We need more of it. And so we were covering her primaries, and she got murdered, just like everybody said, and that was not a shock. And we read Trump's statement, and his statement was utter horseshit. And it was so bad, I fell out of my chair laughing. And some of it, at first I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then just went back into bullshit that even he had said when he finally had to, because otherwise, like, the whole world, when he went on television and said, okay, it's over, go back to your homes and all this other shit. It's like he had admitted all this he's just going back on everything. Like, no. So I'm falling out of my seat laughing, and I'm obviously nothing but contempt for everything that man says. And we got a strike, and we got a strike for fake news because we said those things. We were quoting the guy. And we got a strike. The channel got taken down for 7 days. And for a live news show, 7 days is a long time to be down. And because of the way the strikes work, they don't actually tell you exactly why. You have to figure out what the problem was. And I figured out that it was that, and said, because they said misinformation. In Time, getting hit for misinformation, which is usually what we get hit for, but we win most of our appeals. Anyways, there was about a month where that got really bad, and knock on wood, it hasn't happened since. But I'm like, we fight misinformation, but you can't fight it without repeating it, unfortunately. So, how did I get onto that? We were talking about, YouTube's been getting better, but between that and various other, I'm thankful for the platform. We wouldn't be able to do this without it, but I don't know. They seem only quasi-interested in the things that would be needed to genuinely improve it. One of them would be fixing that system, and to be fair, we haven't gotten struck despite getting into it on most of those complaints for some time. I don't know what's changed. I'm thankful for it, and I hope it holds, because there seems to be an ebb and flow to this. Oh, dear Lord.
Well, yeah, we'll hope it stays better. I mean, YouTube is kind of geared more towards young people and essentially camp videos and unboxing videos. That's really where YouTube makes its money. But, adult content, not so much. So, on the topic of Liz Cheney, it's like I don't have much of an opinion on Liz Cheney, like politically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even really know what some of her other beliefs are as far as her political career and stuff. And I'm sure that she got elected in Wyoming based off of her father, because her father was incredibly popular in Wyoming. He was the governor of Wyoming, very, very popular senator, or was he senator for Wyoming? Very popular
her father?
Person. I have met him. Yes, her father.
Oh yeah, when he was yes.
Yeah, I've met him, and so yeah, he was incredibly popular and very like folk hero-ish in Wyoming. So I'm sure that's probably what got her, name recognition, probably what got her elected in the first place. But the one thing that I will say about Liz Cheney is, and I think that we need this far more in especially political discourse if we have a hope of saving our republic, and is that she stood up despite party politics, and she stood up and for what she thought was right, and said, to hell with what the party says about this, to hell with what some of the constituents may feel about this. Even if it causes political suicide, I'm not just going to bow to the party politics, and I'm going to stand up for what's right. That is the kinds of people that we actually need in our government as our representatives. And if they stand up for something, because let's be honest, there's many issues where people don't agree on what is right. And if your representative stands up and says, no, this is I'm standing up for this. This is right. And I don't care what all of you say. This is right. Well, then at least, if they aren't aligned with your own, the constituents' own ideas, then they can elect a different representative. But the fact that she actually stood up and said, no, I'm not just following along with the party dogma. This isn't right, and I'm going to say it isn't right. That is the kind of person that you're looking for to be in government.
Amen.
Maybe we could get rid of some of the uni-party.
Well, yeah, I mean, the MAGAs that are in there right now are certifiably unhinged. And you had said this. So you had said that Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't actually like that. Could you explain that a bit more?
Oh yeah, I look at like some of the tweets that she makes, some of the just weird ass shit that she'll say in like Congress or something, and of course gets quoted and spun around. And it's like, oh my god, this woman is like certifiably insane, and she does sound certifiably insane. And then I'll sit down and watch her in a conversation on, like, say, Timcast IRL, just a conversation with somebody. And it's like, wow, this lady is actually entirely sane. She knows what she's talking about. She's cogent. She's making good points. And it's like, what the hell happens here? Why are you so batshit crazy, or bat snot crazy, when you like tweet shit? And yet, if you were to just sit down and have a casual conversation with somebody, it's like, wow, you're not this crazy woman that you appear to be. It's like, why this double persona? It's like, I don't quite get what maybe she's just trying to draw attention. I don't know what it is, but she sounds eminently reasonable when she just sits down and has a conversation. And yet her tweets, some of the shit she says on the floor of Congress, it's like, who the hell is this woman? It's like, are you like maybe bipolar or something? I don't get it. Are you off your meds today? What is the issue here? Because it's a little baffling to me. I don't understand it. So it's really, really bizarre. And of course, some of the things, it's like, well, I don't agree with you on this, but at least you're making you're trying to make a reasoned argument. I think you're wrong, and I think you're wrong about a few things. I think you have some stats, or cherry picking some stats to support your position here, but you don't sound crazy. Until you get on Twitter. What the hell?
Or when she does the thing where she she looks through the mail slot of her colleagues, and it's all. I'm fascinated by the idea that she's just uber cynical and that this is all an act. The reality is, and I used to. So I was a political operative for a time, not a huge time, and I started out just volunteering and doing door walking and so on and so forth. But I was pretty big in the Obama campaign, and was even asked to move to Chicago to be part of the rapid response writing team, which my wife was like, at the time she was, I think, 6 or 7 months pregnant. So obviously I had to make sure that she was given money or something so she could be like, ask my friends to check on her, because it's like Obama, Chicago, right? And no, I stayed. But anyways. One of the things that I learned about politics, and I loved Obama. I joined the Obama campaign when he was polling. You've heard me say this before. When he was polling at, I think it was 0.5% in the Democratic Party. So I started door knocking with him too, knocking on doors. Hey, I'd like to speak to you about Barack Obama. People were like, Barama who? I was like, no, Barack Obama. It's like, no, I don't vote for Chiquita Banana, but thank you. It's like, no, Barack Obama. Oh, fuck it, never mind. So, but the amount of theater and pageantry that goes into politics was higher than I had expected, and obviously everybody tries to make everything feel natural all the time and all this other stuff. And there's a great Chris Rock does a. You should see it just to see how much goes into making anything seem natural. Chris Rock did a special, and what they do for these specials is a film crew follows you for a year to every venue you do, and you wear the same thing to every single venue, and they have the same backdrop at every single venue, and they record all of them, and then they slice them together in all the best elements of all of it into one special. So you end up with, it looks like it's just one show. No, it's cut together from 20 different shows and is all the best of, which makes sense. Okay, fine, I get why they do that. He decided that he was going to wear something different for each show and a different background. So when you see this special, it's fucking insane because he tells the jokes the same way. He moves on the stage the same way. He's in the same spot on the stage each time he tells the joke. But he tells the joke 30 times to 30 different audiences wearing 30 different things. And it's all stitched together into this one special. So he's walking, and he's like, I was doing this and I was doing that. And he's walking out, he's holding the mic, and he's adjusting the mic, and he throws the mic cable out to give himself some room. And 1 minute he's wearing like a blue coat, and then he's wearing a red one. And he's still throwing the cable out. And he's in the same spot on the stage. And the way the audio dubbing is done, you can see his lips moving to the same. They cut it seamlessly. The jokes are this, and he's laughing at his own jokes at the same spot every single time. Now, I think in terms of, as a performer, this was the worst thing to do because you're seeing the sausage getting made. And I think it just completely destroyed the entire perception that we kind of have to have when we're seeing a comedian, which is that they're telling these jokes for the first time, which of course they're not. But oh my God, was it eye-opening. And it was the same thing for me when I was watching politicians talk about subjects I knew they were passionate about because I had talked with congressmen, especially in Connecticut. I'd worked on a couple of congressional campaigns, and you'd sit and you'd talk to the congressman. What was it? I can't believe I've forgotten his name. Courtney Bray. I have another long story. I have a great story about that one. He almost threw a buddy of mine in jail for the rest of his life, but that's another story. He painted a submarine yellow. It turns out it was like a national offense, big thing. Anyways, don't spray paint naval property yellow. Everybody likes the Beatles. It's not as funny as you think. At any rate, the amount of
investigation have no sense of humor we are aware of, man.
Exactly. Well, so it was funny because I was working on the Courtney campaign, and this was years after, and a buddy of mine who's an artist And as a protest to the Iraq War, had painted the submarine at the Navy base yellow. And I can't believe I've forgotten Courtney's name. I've got a thank you letter from him somewhere over here, and I can probably like open it and find out what his name is. But Courtney Bray, no, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. But anyways, I remember talking to him because so my buddy, his name was Mac, and he found out I was working on the Bray campaign. And he's just like, yeah, don't tell him you know me. She's like, why not? He goes, yeah, we had an incident, and I met him once. I was like, oh, really? You went over to his office? No, he met me in jail. I was like, wait, what are you in jail for? It's like, well, anyway, so he told me the whole story, and finally one day I just had to tell Bray, and I said, listen, so I happen to know this guy. He goes, oh, that guy. I was like, yeah. He goes, I felt really bad for that guy. I was like, really? He said, yeah, he was a kid. He was an artist. He thought he was being clever. He had no idea. He goes, but here's what I have to tell you. Every congressman on their first day, meets with the president of the United States and shakes the hand of the president of the United States, and they talk about their oath and all this other stuff. He goes, and I had missed that first day. I had come in late, so I had a schedule to meet with the president of the United States, like on some other day. We were going to do the picture. I'm about to go meet with him, and I got called by the Department of Homeland Security saying that there was a national emergency happening at the submarine base in Groton, Connecticut, which is his district. And this was a national emergency. This is a nuclear submarine base. So he bails on the president of the United States. He does the whole thing, and he's flying on a helicopter trying to find out what's happening, and he thinks we're under attack. And somebody did say that, like, there had been an incident with a submarine and the whole 9 yards, and he gets there. And they finally tell him somebody took a spray paint can and painted, and it wasn't even the submarine. It was like this very famous submarine sign in Groton, and painted it yellow. He goes, wait, I was supposed to be with the president of the United States today. This is what you called me in for? And then he met my buddy who was terrified he's going to jail for the rest of his life. He's just like, listen, I'm going to do this again. He goes, no, I'm never going to do it again. He goes, okay. You know where I was supposed to be today? Where were you supposed to be? I was supposed to be meeting the president of the United States. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, okay. Go. Don't touch a spray paint can ever again. He goes, still had like a I forget what it was, like a felony warning or something on his record. But he didn't like the idea of working for the campaign. I still got him to work for it, but that's another story. How'd I get? Oh yeah, the pageantry. Oh God, I remember. I moved off of that campaign. It was a congressional campaign, and I was spending a lot more time on the local campaign for the primaries against Hillary Clinton, which I loved. That was one of my favorite times in my life. It took a tremendous amount of skill in a wide variety of areas, and it was never enough. You were just always working. But I remember we got called in to meet with that campaign, and we come in, and they were pissed. They were pissed. Like, every volunteer we have is coming in, and they want to volunteer for Barack Obama. And I understood why. He was charismatic, and registration numbers for volunteers were through the roof. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. I was blown out. You had to fend off volunteers with a stick. And I was like, look, we're sending volunteers your way. They just don't want to work with your congressman. And I could understand why. He just was bland. Let me say bland. That's what I'm going to say. So nobody really wanted to work for him. And they're like, look, the reason Obama has coattails, and the reason we're helping with the Obama campaign is because, he's supposed to get all the down ticket guys in. I was like, yeah, I know, but so you can't take a 𝗂𝐴𝐺 to a volunteer and say, start working for the congressman. I'm sorry, you can't do that. And, but what was interesting was in front of the camera, everybody's hunky-dory and everybody's happy, and Obama was very supportive of that congressional campaign, and Courtney was very supportive of Obama. Behind the scenes, oh my God, there was so much fucking tension, and everybody was pissed. And they were pissed because Obama was so successful, and it wasn't translating down ticket the way everybody thought it should. And so on the front, all of us were all hunky-dory, and whenever you're talking to anybody, it's like, oh, no, we support this congressman. We're all together. And behind the scenes, they're accusing us practically of fraud and theft half the fucking time. There were some contentious fucking meetings. And I knew the guys because I had been on there. That didn't please them either. They're like, you used to work with us, and now you're working with the Obama campaign. I was like, yeah, a national campaign versus a state, excuse me. And there was no way I was not going to work for Obama. But that was the problem. Anyways, long story short, the pageantry behind comedy, pageantry behind In Time to some extent. And you've experienced this too, Isandring, and I know I've been talking a lot, so I'll pass it on to you. But every now and then, I'll ask you a question right before the show. I'll ask you a question. I should know better, right? Don't ask the question. Just wait until the show. You'll give me an answer. It's like, oh, that's a great answer. I'm going to ask you again. It's like, okay, you got to put yourself in that headspace again. Just give the answer again, kind of as if you're giving it the first time. Yeah, I know we're talking how the sausage is made, but there's pageantry to all of this shit. So the question when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene is, how much of this is she's actually the most cynical human being you've ever met, but is actually reasonably sane and just acts that way because she knows that's what's going to get her elected? What do you find more scary, that or the alternative?
I'm going to have to go with the pageantry versus her being actually completely insane, because at least that way we're not electing completely crazy people. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she is completely crazy. Maybe she's able to keep it together for some of these kind of just sit down interviews. And the reality of it is she really is bat snot crazy. I mean, she's done some really fucking crazy things. Shooting victims around and yelling at them. And I mean, she has done some really crazy ass shit. And, so it's one of those things where it's like the dichotomy here is just jarring. It's like, I don't know which way it goes. And, that's frankly kind of scary. I mean, and either way, I don't think that she should be elected. Even if it is just pageantry, that's like, oh my God, don't do this. This is not somebody you want to elect, because they're willing to go to these kinds of length for theater, versus no, she really is just that insane, and we elected her anyway. Oh, I keep saying we, like I had anything to do with it.
The fact that we as a species could do it, yeah. Please, sorry, go.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Barack Obama, and I sadly have to admit, the 2008 election is what actually, for the first time ever, actually had an interest in politics. Up until that point, I didn't give a shit about politics. I didn't give a shit about American government. I didn't give a shit about any of that stuff. It's like I just had zero interest in it. And I'm not sure what it was, but it started getting me interested. I started realizing how much I didn't know, started realizing, a whole bunch of different things. And it was that kind of election cycle in 2008. And I actually, in 2008, I voted for Barack Obama. I was like, man, I really want to get something different going on here. It's like, I didn't vote for him in 2012. I voted for Mitt Romney, but that was what got me in there. And it took forever to realize that the guy's name was Barack Obama. Because listening to it on the radio, because at that time I just had a regular AM/FM radio, and I would have sworn that his name was Baracko, and his last name was Obama. And I was like, what the? So yeah, it took me quite a while to figure out what his actual name was when they were saying it on the radio, because I'd never heard of this guy before. And apparently a lot of other people really hadn't either, but it took me a long time to realize his name was Barack and not Baracko. Because Baracko just seems like that seems like an actual first name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just kind of a weird, maybe just Barack didn't seem like a full first name, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it took me a long time to realize what his name actually was. And they were saying it all the time on the radio, and but they always said Barack Obama.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, his name's. So yeah, it was kind of that was an interesting year, especially considering I did a lot of NPR listening too, because those were the channels I could get on my radio. Because I literally had only an AM/FM radio, so I was listening to the radio a lot, and a lot of times you could catch an NPR station before anything else, because I didn't really want to. I wasn't interested in listening to music, so I was trying to find talk radio. I was trying to find it. That was one of the things I loved about Canada with CBC Radio 1. They had lots of cool, interesting news things. I hate to say documentaries, but things like that where they were discussing different things. So that was kind of my first introduction to I want to listen to this stuff. I had I got interested in politics and what was going on.
I had no interest in any of this, and my wife was an activist, and I was like, I don't want to do anything in politics. I want to stay out of it. And she's just like, well, what do you think of Al Gore? And I was just like, okay, he's the vice president. I'm sure he's going to become the president. She's like, yeah, but don't you think this is important? I was like, no, I really don't care. And she's like, well, I'm going to volunteer for the Gore campaign. Let's go up to New Hampshire and do some canvassing. I was just like, well, we've got canvases here. You can paint on a canvas I'll get you canvas. We'll get paint, whatever you want to paint. She goes, that's not what canvassing is. I was like, oh, I know. If that's not what canvassing is, I don't want to know about it. And I went with her, and I actually really enjoyed it. It turned out I was good at it. And that's it. And then I worked on every campaign all the way through Obama. I kind of stopped there. Any number of reasons, but we were canvassing for Obama in New Hampshire, and at that point I was actually good friends with the Midwest campaign finance director, so he got us a great position in New Hampshire. But he takes me aside and is like, here's the areas I want you to canvass. And I take a look at it. I was like, wait a minute, this is a field, this is a huge field, there's a Unabomber shack right here. There's no road to it. There might be a guy living there. Hopefully there isn't. I was like, this is where you want me to go. It's like, yeah. It's like, congratulations, you're good at this. You get the worst territories. I was like, fucking A. So, that woman did her song, I got a crush on Obama, right? So we're like, oh God, we're canvassing, and I'm alternating with a few other groups, but we're heading out. It's getting to be nighttime. Like, okay, I can't wait anymore. We got to pull over. I'm going to go take a leak. Get out. And I hear a noise. And I look, and there is a bear. And he's about 20 yards away, I want to say. And I'm like, okay, 20 yards is way too close and he's not like looking at me or anything, but it's a bear. He's on all fours. He's walking kind of like parallel to me. I was just like, I don't need to take a leak that badly. So I hop back in and just like, I just run in. I was like, drive. And we get like a guy who threatens to shoot us. The guys I appreciated, and I've said this before, there was a couple of doors we knocked, usually the more remote ones. Open the door, yeah, what do you want? I want to talk to you about Barack Obama. I ain't voting for no N-word. And I was just like, thank God. Because the worst thing that they can do is they're never going to vote for him, but they don't want to say it, so they just waste your time. I was like, at least he's honest. So hop in the car, bail. But we're sitting there, I got a crush on Obama. So we just start changing the words to like, I fought a bear for Obama. And we're just like all the others, a guy took a shot for Obama and all the. So that was the. I gotta start writing these down because I'm already not remembering them nearly as well. Party sits there, says it was such an adventure. You're always going to remember every detail, and of course that's not really true. But
yeah, if that were true, I would have a lot more stories of what I did in the Navy. It's like I went on 2 deployments, and it's like I try and think. It's like, well, what did I do? What did we actually do?
You bought a hooker, if I recall.
Yeah, I did. I did actually buy a hooker. All day, and it only cost me $20, and she was happy, like ecstatic. How else are you supposed to find the best places to actually go than say, hey, you live here?
It was.
I don't want to see all the touristy things. I want to see, I want to see all the cool places of, it's like, I don't want to see the tourist part of this. Take me to go see interesting things that you find interesting. And the fact that, you speak Thai, whatever the hell they speak there. I think it's Thai. And, take me around and you can talk to the people and let me know what they're saying. And I mean, granted, your English is a little bit broken, a little harder to understand, but I didn't want the tourist experience. I wanted to go see the cool places, and that was one of the funnest days. Well, yeah, because the USO tour things that the ship had set up, and I did do one of those as well, but they were like $120. And I was like, wow, those things are expensive. I mean, granted, we went all over the place, and going up into Bangkok and a bunch of other stuff. Saw the big emerald place, or maybe it was ruby. I can't remember. But they had a big mine there doing all that stuff. So yeah, that one was kind of cool too. They also put on some of the cultural shows, and I was like, okay, well, this is obviously very, very touristy. I wonder if this is even remotely accurate. But I mean, yeah, maybe it is. I can't judge, but it's like I've seen a lot of shows put on and for tourists, and half the time they're not particularly, they're there for entertainment, not really accuracy. And I did get to go see, there's in the movie, I think it's Goldfinger, James Bond movie, there's a cove that has a rock. It looks kind of like an exclamation point in the middle of the bay. And that was in Thailand. And so I got to go on a really cool, riverboat tour. We went through the canyons. So there's like these just big rocks. I mean, it looks like it was big, huge plate of rock. Somebody hit a big hammer and it just shattered, and then it filled in with water. So you could go between all these big rocks, but these, it's just cliffs. And then, and then they've got caves. And the riverboat tour was just freaking awesome. I was glad that I actually shelled out like the $60 to go on that thing. And of course it ends at this tourist destination, which is this rock in this cove that was in one of the James Bond movies. And which, don't get me wrong, that thing was really cool for, just a natural thing, but it was so touristy. Everything was so touristy. Yeah. So yeah, that was, after I went on that was, and it was expensive. It took most of my money. I didn't have very much money left. And that was when, a friend of mine had been buying this hooker, and pretty much that was all he was doing, was just getting drunk and shagging the entire time he was there. And, so he was trying to get me to go, and they were at the bar, and it's like, oh, look, and here's her friend, and I was chatting with her friend, and it's like, yeah, I really kind of want to go. I want to go see some cool sites, some of the local sites, something that isn't just so touristy. And it's like, I'll give you $20 if you can just, give me a tour of Phuket Island. Take me all the cool places. And she was like, you just want a tour? It's like $20. It's like, yeah. And she was like, okay, be here tomorrow morning. And so I came back, gave her the $20, and I spent all day going to all these really cool places. And I have no idea what I ate. I have no idea what I ate, but I just kind of pointed at stuff because nothing was in English. We just went, and it was really, really cool. And even though there was some really cool stuff on the official tours that they offered, I think I had more fun, with the exception of the riverboat tour. That thing is still, even though it was very touristy, that thing was still freaking awesome. But the next best thing was that day spent seeing all of the kind of more local sites where the locals hang out. So that was really fun. So yeah, I bought a hooker for a day.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and that's a brilliant move. As someone, my father used to travel a lot. I've traveled more than I expected to, and I've enjoyed the places I've been to. But I will tell you, people are always talking about how do you find places off the beaten trail. That's a good way to do it. That's really the way to do it. So what I'm going to do now is I want to let everyone know of what we got coming up. Tomorrow, Operator Starsky, along with Georgie from Ukraine Matters, is going to be on at 3 p.m. Eastern. Isandring will be there, Commander McMillan will be there, and it will be a call-in show. So if you want to call in, ask Starsky a question, chat with him yourself, chat with Georgie, chat with Lance. I'm reasonably sure nobody's calling in to say hi to me, but I will be there too. You can call in and say hi to anybody on the panel. That will be tomorrow, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very much looking forward to that.
I'll call in to say hi to you.
Well, thank you. I will waste the. It'll be the call-in number. It'll be yeah. You between you and what is it? Oz. That's why I'm not telling Oz about the show, because Oz will fucking call in and be like, I want to talk to Mr. Soutter and find out why he does not believe in God, and is it just because he wants to sin? I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
You kind of do that Southern Baptist preacher pretty damn good.
Oh, thank you. Well, I called him back once, and he got to meet a friend of mine, Sid Dithers, and he was Sid Dithers was talking to him, and finally, after a while, and he started getting a little flustered with Sid Dithers, and I said, he was just like, well, Sid, where are you calling from? And I said, well, I'm calling on behalf of a friend of mine to give you a message. He said, "It's in time, bitch. Don't fuck with us." And that was that was fun. I may have gotten tipped off as to who did the original call, but at any rate. So I'm actually also going to be on, Sammy Davis Jr. She is going to have a show actually specifically on anti-theism. And I think Dillahunty and the Line is going to be involved. I forget. I've been getting details, but I haven't read all of them yet. But that's going to be Saturday. I will let people know on the Discord. So come into the Discord, figure out what's going on with that. We are following what's going on in Ukraine. Has the offensive started? Lance has said no, and he is the guy who would know. But he has admitted, and I think this is sort of the consensus, is that they've done the probing and they're starting to figure out where they're going to attack. If you consider that the offensive, then it has. But at a minimum, we're looking at it to begin days or weeks. So we're tracking that. We're tracking a couple of other things. What's been going on in Bakhmut, and in particular with the Wagner Group, which is very important for any number of reasons, which most of you know. If you don't join us on the Discord, we'll be discussing that. Lance is also great about getting back to people. So if you have questions that you want to ask Lance, anyone on the Discord will tell you people ask him questions all the time, and he's really good about giving good answers. So do that. Tuesday is the show I think we're all looking forward to. Very proud of this one. We are going to... Lieutenant General, thank you for the correction. Lieutenant General Benjamin Hodges, former head of all U.S. forces in Europe, and also the former NATO commander of all NATO ground forces, is going to be on Tuesday. We're going to be talking Ukraine. We're going to be talking misconceptions about the Ukraine war, why it is or is not important, why Russia is or is not important, what is the future of NATO, and how is NATO addressing this, and how it should either be escalated or de-escalated. These are all questions that we're going to be asking him on Tuesday. I think that's 10 a.m. Eastern. I should probably check that one. It's going to be an early one. It's a different time. He's going to be with us from, I think he's in Sweden right now. Sweden, I think. I forget where he is. He moves around a lot, but wherever he is, 10 a.m. is the best we could do. So we will see him 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And then a week from that, we will have... oh, dear Lord, I can't believe I just spaced his name. I'm not doing well with names today. Rick from Rick the Ukrainian is going to be on to discuss. Now, what he does is he dubs videos of Russian POWs as they're being interviewed by Ukrainian forces. He dubs them into English, and for the same reason that I think that sort of hooker story is important, because there are ways to get sort of behind the facade of what's happening in a country, and finding a way to get natives, locals there to really show you around is a great example of it. Understanding what is going on in the mind of Russians is not easy to do. And POWs are going to be ones who have been captured. They're not going to say anything too negative about the people holding them. So, I'm aware that it's a perspective, but I think it's a very important one. And I think putting it in the context of what we see in the rest of this war is very important. And these are the people who have been actually captured, and many times are calling their family, calling their wives, calling their mothers from captivity. And in very much the same way when Starsky's unit had originally been captured in Hostomel, when they were returned, one of the things that they reported, the questions that they were most asked was, why are you shooting at us? That was the question that the Russians asked the Ukrainian defenders when they were captured. Why are you shooting at us? That gives a tremendous, I think, insight as to what's happening in this war, why it's being fought, and what people do or do not understand about it. So I'm looking forward to having Rick on. That will be a week from Tuesday. We're going to talk about why he does these translations and what he has seen and learned in discussing all of this. He wasn't discussing, but in going through all of this footage, and we're going to talk about that. I think that's going to be a great discussion. So I think we have a number of excellent shows coming up. We are right now on Overtime. This will be all on our sister channel. However, we are trying to get Overtime to 1,000 subs. We're close. We're less than 100 away. If you can help us in that, like, share, and let people know. We've stopped with the simulcasting for now because it drives everybody insane. And I don't think it's good for our audience. We do need to get to 1,000 subs. We may end up doing it again at some point soon, but we don't do better shows when we're doing that. So we'll sort it out. But in the meantime, you're on Overtime now. I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope you find the content valuable. If you do, like, share, as Isandring is always good about reminding me, and that always helps. Isandring, any final thoughts?
Yeah, you forgot to tell everybody about my totally fictitious show coming up. It comes up every week. It's called, What Grinds My Gears with Isandring.
Oh,
and you never promote my fictitious show, and I'm very upset about that.
To be fair, I haven't really promoted Titan's new show, Hammer Time, either. But,
just at least mine's an actual, real fake show.
Yeah, yours is a real fake show, but doesn't have the word time in it now, does it? No time for What Grinds My Gears? That's something I can work with, Isandring. How long have you been doing this? Really? You call yourself a professional? Titan is Hammer Time. I get it.
Call it shipping time.
Shipping time? Yeah, exactly. Well, I still think we're going to do couch time.
Playtime is still... I like that one.
Playtime. I'll tell that story and then we'll wrap it up. So, some of you may have heard this one before, but I think she was 12 when she first proposed this. My 12-year-old. She may have been young. She may have been 10 or 11. Loves the fact that I stream. Has no idea what I stream about, doesn't really watch it. She knows it's about daddy things, which is always about science and politics and boring stuff. But she loves the idea that I do it. And she wants to be on stream with me. And it's funny, years ago when I first started, I would have been like, yeah, sure. Now I'm like, yeah, no. There's some pretty interesting people out there, but she really does want to do it. So we're trying to figure out what could we do, at least to just placate her, whether or not would do it for real. And okay, well, she loves to game, and maybe we could do gaming shows. Lord knows they score higher in the metrics than news programs. So, and hey, all the people who are making 10 million plus on YouTube are all like 10 years old anyway. So she needs to be pulling her weight. So I get it. I as a good dad, I need to be putting her in front of a camera and recording because we need the dough. But at any rate, so she's talking about she wants to do the show, and I was just like, we're not really going to do a show with her. So finally, I tell her, I was like, well, the problem is a game show isn't really something along the lines of she wants to be on in time. A game show really isn't along the gaming, doing walkthroughs, watching us play, Borderlands or whatever. Like it's not really on brand. And, in time, all our shows are like, the show where I get, just, 20 minutes to talk about a topic. That's called Nick of Time. We've got Overtime, Downtime, all these shows, so we can't really do a show if it's not that. She goes, oh, I've solved that problem. I was like, oh, really? What's the answer to that? She goes, oh, our gaming show is going to be called Playtime. Like, fuck. That's good. That's actually fucking good. And I was like, shit. I was like, okay. So, yeah, we're going to do like a little anime of her. We've done a couple of test streams. It's hilarious. She does a great job, and she loves it. But I told Starsky about it. Behind the scenes, I told Starsky about it. And he was just like, absolutely. He goes, I will. I said, we should do it with you because he wanted to do a gaming channel. He did not want to do a channel on the war. His channel was going to be a gaming channel. That's what it was going to be. And I said, when this war is over, you, myself, my daughter will do game time. He goes, absolutely. We'll do game time. So that was it. I said that. I left it. And then later on, I was on I don't know if it was on our show or the Shills or something like that, but we were on. He goes, Nick, we're going to do game time. Yes. I was like, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
well,
yep.
I guess to my I think that's just out of the mouth of babes. I love that story. Playtime.
Like, she just fucking hit me on that. I was like, whoa.
I know. And it's brilliant, too. I mean, only like I said, out of the mouth of babes. I guess my final thing, well, I hate to call it final thing, like, goodbye, cruel world, I'm going to give you my final thoughts and you will never see me again. No, you're going to have to put up with me. But my kind of final thoughts are, in this world of deepening divides, or at least apparently deepening divides, of vitriolic exchanges online, people not getting along together, calling people Nazis when you just don't or when you just disagree with them. All of this horribleness that seems to be going on, especially in the online sphere, I'd like to remind people that the real world exists and that the way you make the world a better place is to make yourself a better person and exhibit those better traits to people around you to make your communities better. You can build your communities better, then you can influence more people. Because who in the hell wants to listen to you rant about what you think is right in the world? Who should listen to you? Why do you have it right? Instead of yelling at everybody about what they should be doing, why don't you just show them what you're doing? Be the change you want to see in the world. It's the only way you're actually going to effectively change it long term. So I encourage everybody to go out and be that better person, to exhibit those good traits, to examine ideas for any possible flaws or any possible good ideas that you can take and mix into other good ideas. And that's the only way we're really going to get through this. It's the only way we're going to be able to come together. We're too disparate, and we need something to unite us together. And I think that trying to make our communities and ourselves better people and exhibit those better traits to everybody around us is the way to make meaningful, impactful change in your own personal life. You're not going to find it online, so stop trying. And hopefully we can make our country more unified and a friendlier place to be.
Amen. Best sentiment we could possibly end this with. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, with Operator Starsky, Commander Lance McMillan, and Georgie from Ukraine Matters. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.